Good evening. Welcome to Auntie Yvette's Storytime. I'm going to tell you a story about a wholly remarkable book. No, not that book. I'm going to tell you a story about a book, The Cajun Night Before Christmas. This book is very, very special to me because when I was a very little child, I used to mimic the words and accents of all of the people around me. And I would read stories out loud to myself for hours and hours and hours in my room in all different voices. All the different voices of all of the different people who came to my school and read to us during story time. And it was a lot of different people because at my school, all of the parents took turns coming to our classes and reading stories to us. My mother knew this, and so when she and my father went on a business trip to New Orleans, she saw this book and she bought a copy of it for me. I've had it for many, 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 many years, and almost every year I read it out loud, usually with friends and family. Sometimes I would read it to her. Sometimes I would read it out loud to myself. It's by Claire, one word, and it has beautiful illustrations. It's the classic Night Before Christmas story, but what makes it very, very special is that it's written in a dialect. And I think that this was the first time I had ever encountered a book that had words in it that would tell you how they sounded, written in a dialect. I knew that I could tell stories and I could read them to people, making up funny voices and saying them in strange ways. But I never knew that books could be written in a way that would show you how they should sound. And to me, as a little kid, that was just a revelation. It was so fascinating. It was so amazing to experience that shift in the language. I had a similar experience many people do when they read The Secret Garden. The Secret Garden also includes sections that are written in a dialect, the dialect of a broad Yorkshire brogue. And I loved reading those parts out loud and trying to hear what those words should sound like based on what was written on the page. So this book is very special to me because it is written in a dialect. And the last thing that I'll say about that is I loved learning what it should sound like. I am not from the South, from Louisiana. I knew people when I was young who did have interesting, sometimes broad, sometimes subtle Southern accents. But for me, trying to capture the truth of how the dialect was written was such an amazing, interesting process. And of course, my parents just laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed because here was this tiny, tiny child who was speaking in a way that there's no possible way I would ever have heard or have known how to speak. And I was so young that was one of the first indications. I was in kindergarten, so probably around 5, that I had an ear for accents and speaking and being able to mimic and change my voice, which led me to the narration that I do for my friends' books today. So that's a lot of introduction, but that's what I wanted you to know. Thank you very much again for joining me for Auntie Yvette's story time. Happy Christmas Eve. I love reading this on Christmas Eve. It is one of my favorite childhood books, and I'm really, really excited to be able to share it with you, even though none of us can be together this year. Even though you're not sitting with me in my living room in front of a fire, sipping a little bit of port and enjoying the story. The Cajun Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house there don't a ting pass, not even a mouse. De cheerin' been nizzle good snug on de floor, and Mama passed de pepper through de crack on de door. Den Mama in de fireplace done roast up de ham, stir up de gumbo, and make bake de yam. Den out on de bayou, dey got such a clatter, make sound like old Boudreaux done fall off his ladder. I run like a rabbit to go to de door, trip over de dog, and fall on de floor. As I look out de door, in de light of de moon, I think, man, you crazy, or got old too soon. 'Cause there, on de bayou, when I stretch my neck stiff, dere's 8 alligator and pullin' de stiff. And a little fat drover with a long polin' stick. I know right away got to be old Saint Nick. Mo faster and faster de gator they came. He whistle and holler and called him by name. Ha, Gaston! Ha, Thibault! Ha, Pierre and Alcée! J'ai Ninette! J'ai Suzette! Celeste and Renée! To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, make crawl, alligator, and be sure you don't fall. Like Tant Flo's cat, through the treetop he fly, when the big old hound dog come a run hisself by. Like dat up the porch, dem old gator climb, with the skiff full of toy, and St. Nicholas behind. Then on top the porch roof, it sound like the hail, when all dem big gator done set down dey tail. Then down the chimney I yell with a bam, and St. Nicholas fall and sit on the yam. Sacre! He exclaim, my pant got a hole. I done sot myself on dem red hot coal. He got on his foots and jumped like a cat, out to the floor where he land with a splat. He was dressed in muskrat from his head to his foot, and his clothes is all dirty with ashes and soot. A sack full of plaything he throw on his back. He look like a burglar, and that's for a fact. His eyes, how they shine. His dimple, how merry. Maybe he been drink de wine from the blackberry. His cheek was like rose, his nose like a cherry. On second thought, maybe he lap up de sherry. With snow-white chin whisker and quiverin' belly, he shook when he laughed like the strawberry jelly. but a wink in his eye and a shook of his head made my confidence dat I don't got to be scared. He don't do no talking, gone straight to his work, put plaything in sock, and then turn with a jerk. He put boot in his hand, dare on top of his head, cast an eye on the chimney, and then he done said, "With all of dat fire and them burning hot flame, me ain't going back by the way that I came." So he run out the door and he climbed to the roof. He ain't no fool, him for to make one more goof. He jump in his skiff and crack his big whip. The gator move down and don't make one slip. And I hear him shout loud as a splashin' he go, "Merry Christmas to all, till I saw you some more." Thank you for listening.